What has been maybe some of your best marketing strategies? Because that's always the hardest thing. We have the great idea and then we go to launch and then we're like, right, we just need the people to come in. So what's worked well for you?
So for us, a few strategies. Number one, we have a class of founding members. So they're basically 20 individuals that we have selected that firstly would use the space. So they would be like our ideal customer for the space. And secondly, individuals that really would help to promote the brand, you know. And so a big part of them being founding members is that they had to nominate 5 others, you know. So right off the bat, you have a group of 100 people, you know. Excellent. So those network effects initially were really important.
Welcome to the show, Nikita. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Kelly. You're the best. We're so excited to be here.
You're the best. Straight in there with a compliment. I love it.
It's true.
We've chatted so many times. We've been on the same panel before. And then you recently launched your business here in Dubai. And I'd love for you to tell everyone what it is.
Yeah. So the Bureau is our newest baby. Me and my sister are co-founders, as you know. And the Bureau is a female-focused co-working space, but I feel so much more than a co-working space. So in addition to work solutions, we also have a cafe, we have meeting rooms, we have events areas, and also a fitness studio, all kind of housed under one space.
And that's why I wanted to bring you in to talk about it, because I came to the launch a few months ago and it was just amazing. Like, to be somewhere as a business owner who's been in the Middle East for over 20 years, to go, this is a space that I would love to work in. So tell me, where did the idea come from? Because there's a couple of these sort of co-working spaces, but nothing quite like what you've delivered, and to be honest, in the location, because it's pretty central. So maybe take a few steps back. How did it all come about?
Yeah, so I think if you rewind to pre-pandemic, so around 2017, 18, I was living in Boston, and someone invited me to a female-focused co-working space. And I, at the time, had no idea what that meant. And, you know, I showed up very excited and, you know, just remember walking in and that feeling of just feeling that this is right. Like, this is amazing that the space exists, that, you know, it was, the space was functional, but also like beautiful and like inspiring as well. And at the same time, it was amazing to see so many different individuals, especially majority women, kind of working in this environment, being productive, supporting each other. And so that's when the seed for me kind of, you know, was planted. And then fast forward 5 years, so the pandemic obviously happened. My sister was in business school in the UK and she moved back to Dubai, and we thought, you know, we always wanted to start a business together. And we realized that firstly, we missed having companionship at work. So we missed that like social structure. We missed, you know, being in an environment where women are professionally developing and supporting each other. But then we also, you know, we would go to various spaces in Dubai, whether it was cafes, whether it was co-working spaces, and we weren't excited to go back to any one of these places, you know. Either they were impractical or they were too far, you know. And so many of our peers, professional peers, but also friends, had kind of those that were working at corporates, those that had, you know, small companies, entrepreneurs. They had kind of also shifted a little bit. So some of them kind of had a total remote model where they were working, you know, from home or from cafes. Yeah. Some were just, you know, working from home, trying to work from home, but had like a spouse or like a puppy or something. So it just wasn't possible. Some had a hybrid model, you know, so they were looking for somewhere to go for those 1 or 2 days a week. So we just thought, why not now that work styles have changed so much? And I think in terms of the actual location, we were very particular. So we wanted to make sure it was in an area where there wasn't that much traffic, which now is like very difficult to find in Dubai.
It's kind of non-existent, but you did really well.
So easy access. And then we wanted to a location, a building that was not a high rise, so that you could kind of just park your car or come from the metro and just walk right in, rather than having to like wait in an elevator. So, you know, with like 100 people, by the time you reach the office, you're flustered, you know? So from that perspective, we wanted a very seamless experience in terms of the location. And then the second thing that was really important is a lot of natural light, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So for us, that was so key in terms of finding a space that was inspiring, but that also helps with productivity a lot as well. You know?
So that must have narrowed down the search quite significantly. And for those that don't know where the bureau is, it's in the Golden Diamond Park. So it's right next to a metro station. It's pretty, I'd probably say it's pretty central in terms of Dubai. You're right next to Mall of the Emirates. It's not in the necessarily in the hustle of downtown Dubai and the traffic and the chaos that's going on there, but it's equally not in the marina at the other end. Like, it is perfectly
It seems
positioned.
like it's kind of in the middle.
It really does. And then you can just come straight off Sheikh Zayed Road and you come into it.
Yeah.
And the things that you're talking about is so true. Like, it's easy. You park your car, you go in.
Yeah.
No elevators and what have you. But the natural light is really what makes it. And I think that's something when you walk into the space, whenever I brought my clients in and we've worked out of there, which we do on a sort of monthly basis, people always go, what a nice vibe.
Yeah, it has good energy.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just all the women that are kind of crossing paths. Now that focus that you have on women, it doesn't mean you exclude men, because men come in and work out of there.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a female-only space. It's a female-focused space. What that means is that it's just been designed with women's needs in mind, you know? So a prime example is that we have a pumping room for new mothers, so that, you know, especially when new mothers are returning back to the workplace, they have a sense of comfort that, you know, when they do have to feed their child or when they do want to pump, they don't have to go back home or cut their workday short, you know? So it just, even with our events, you know, professional development for women as well, and tackling and discussing issues that are pertinent and important to women. But men are allowed. Everyone, it's inclusive. Everyone's welcome.
And you've got a little podcasting studio in there. You have your rooms. What are they called? Cabins for calls? Have they got
they have like phone booths. Yeah.
Booths.
They're silent phone booths, so you can just pop in for like a quick Zoom call or private phone call. You know?
A number of my clients have used it as a space as well to host events, which I think that was something when we've talked about it, you've been quite surprised at the uptake on actually people wanting to use it for workshops and you know, masterclasses and events. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's something that's really surprised us, is how popular the bureau's been for events. So not just for our own events, just everyone from different walks of life. So we had corporates doing their, you know, offsites. We've had people, brands hosting pop-ups, you know. We have currently like a charity hosting an event there. So it's the whole range, and that's really kind of been interesting to see. And I think the number one reason people give is that they're just sick of hotel ballrooms, you know? So they want an inspiring place that, you know, is not as expensive, that's, you know, affordable, but then also you get that quality. And it's also, like you said, it's a fresh space, you know? People are always looking for new spaces to do things, you know? So that's been like, honestly, very surprising for us, but in a good way. So a little bit about the journey of you doing it, because it's all, loads of people have ideas, and I'm sure there's other people that have gone, we should definitely do this. But post-COVID, with maybe, I know that you saw the gap in the market in the sense of going, well, people have got hybrid models or they're not going to the office. But also maybe people don't want to go out. What made you so sure that this was going to work and the timing was right? I think, so Rhea and we both had, you know, a personal need, both of us as well. But then also what we realized is, you know, we said initially, we're the, you know, ideal target market. We are women. We know what women want. And I think what we realized in the process is, even though we're women, like, we don't want to assume this is what all women want, you know? So what we did is that we did a lot of focus groups. So we met, you know, I think hundreds of, you know, different women of different ages, different ethnicities, different walks of life, different stages of life as well, just to understand, like, what are the needs out there, and to kind of hone in on what are the needs that we can address, you know? And so just through those conversations, we really got to understand, you know, some of the things that we initially thought were confirmed, and then a few of the things that we thought necessarily, you know, we must provide XYZ. We realized realized maybe there isn't as much of a need, you know. So initially, in the initial plan, there was a salon, you know, as part of the space. But
I love that idea.
Yeah, but through our focus groups, we actually kind of realized that everyone has their fixed spaces.
It's so true, though. Yeah.
And so, although people might like the idea of it being there, it might not be necessarily something people use, you know?
because you know who goes and gets your nail. You got your girl who does the nails and the hair.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just one example. Even like, you know, we got asked like, should we have a kind of a creche, you know, area for children? So we actually did a focus group specifically with mothers, just to understand their perspective. And surprisingly, the feedback we got from, you know, various focus groups is that actually the mothers wanted the space without the children, you know, so they wanted a space they could go where, you know, because they have, you know, support here in the UAE, that they could just go for a few hours to actually be, you know, wholly productive and have that focused time,
and out of home and
yeah, out of the house as well. So that was interesting to learn as well, you know. So I think after all these conversations, it really gave us a lot of insight, you know. And then I think you don't 100% know till you start, but that gave us the confidence we needed to take that leap, you know?
So how long was it from like idea or discussion focus group to actually the launch day?
2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in theory, because considering you had to do the fit out as well and these kind of things, so that's not a huge amount of time.
Yeah. So basically the fit out took a year. Okay. So the contractors obviously told us 3-4 months.
I was going to ask you, but how long did you think it would?
What we learned as a rule of thumb, at least over here, is that whatever timeline contractors give you, just double it internally, so you know yourself and you can plan accordingly. You know.
I think your budgets go the same with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, we started ideating in January 2021, and we launched in January 2023. And it from between ideation and actually starting in terms of the fit out, the approvals, and all of that, it was a year, and then another year to actually get all those approvals and then finish all the work to completion.
Because it's the approvals that can be the challenge.
Yeah, so we naively said, you know, we'll build 2 partial mezzanines, you know, it won't be any issue. And little did we know that the amount of approvals, you know, that we actually required. But I think it's good that we were naive about it, because if we had known what we know now, we wouldn't have done it.
Oh, completely. I mean, I say that as well. I'm glad when I started my business at 24, I was as naive as I was, because you might not consider it. I just wanted to go back and ask a little bit more. So I think that's really interesting, the whole focus group, because I think people that are watching and listening going, okay, maybe I should do a focus group to see if my business idea has got legs. What would you say to someone, like, how would they go around, or how did you go around setting it up, and what advice would you have for that? Yeah,
so the first focus group we had, it was actually all people that we knew. Okay. So it was people that we had handpicked. We were a group of, I think, 12 to 15, and people that we had handpicked who me and Rhea, we trusted their opinion, you know? So they were, again, different stages of life, different, you know, expertise, different industries as well. Some were professionals, some were entrepreneurs. And we had, you know, a very structured list of questions and information that we wanted from them. And we knew that these were people that would give us honest answers, you know? They're not people that are trying to please us or whatever it is. So
and I usually had to be really clear about that in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So we set kind of the ground rules from the beginning, even when we met, saying that, you know, firstly, thank you so much for like volunteering your time, but we really want your honest opinion and honest feedback, you know? So that was really helpful, because it set the, you know, the bar really high in terms of like the openness that we wanted. And from there, people just recommended other people, and it was a lot of word of mouth through there, you know, which was really nice. And I think people were excited about the idea, and they wanted to be involved somehow, you know. And actually, I remembered something else. Even before that, Rhea and we used to host these sessions called business therapy, and it was online Zoom sessions with around 10 to 12 women. And it was kind of a needs and leads session. So everyone in the group, so people would sign up. We circulated this link, people would sign up and they would support the group with, suggestions they had. And then you say, as a business owner, you would come in and say, this is my business and I need help on these 3 points, and the group would support in that sense. So we kind of started building that database from there before even dropping the name of the bureau,
And how did the name come about?
So it was an interesting journey coming to the name. So again, we were very specific on the criteria we wanted. So we wanted it to be a single word. So nothing too long in the sense that it should be memorable. And we wanted it to be something that wasn't necessarily specific to the region. Because the plan is to expand not just regionally, but globally. So something that resonates all over the world. And something that gives a reference to work, to, a workplace. So the bureau in French is office. And then, the last is when you think of the word bureau, it kind of, the image that comes to mind is kind of like a Mad Men type, a room with like a control room type thing. And, all male environment. So it's kind of a play on that as well.
I always love to find where the whole brand or the brand name kind of came from and the foundations for it. What have been some of the challenges? You've talked about, the fit out and how long it took. And I want to get to the exciting part of going so the marketing bits and what's worked really well. Is there any other challenges that you want to share that has been tough, shall we say, in business?
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge for us so far has just been kind of, areas of the business and areas of the bureau that we thought would be like particularly popular, kind of benchmarking that against like the reality of whether they've been popular or not. So for us, just constantly being like flexible in a sense, so like a certain going back to the mezzanines, one of the mezzanines we built was a silent area. And so we anticipated people would love the quietness of it and, being, in a calm environment that you can just focus, and nobody uses that area, And so it's just been interesting that, people actually want to be in the thick of it, in the middle and on the ground floor amongst others, So I think just like small things like that, just being like very adaptable in a sense, being very flexible. And even our space, we've moved it around so much. So we had a meeting room and we've had such an uptake in offices that we converted one to an office, So I think just that being flexible has been kind of a bit challenging, but in a way, that's important. That's important to be successful.
The early starts as well.
I think we can't be fixed, in that sense. And I think also it's with anything customer facing, like that's always challenging, because you're dealing with people at the end of the day. So for us, just ensuring that we give that like consistency of experience to everyone and giving like my father-in-law said this. He said that no matter what business you build, you need to have moments of delight, so whatever that might be, it might be something, very intangible, so the same way hotels put like a chocolate on your pillow, so those moments of like delightful moments, and these are the things that people will resonate with, and these are the things that people will come back for,
What are some of those things that you're trying to do within the bureau then that are your moments of delight?
So just being very thoughtful in a sense. So like for Valentine's Day, we wrote everyone handwritten notes. So hundreds of handwritten notes were sent. So I think people really appreciated that. Just knowing every single member by face and name, I think is so important. And another thing is, I think a reason that people join a space like this that they might not even know is to be like connected to others. And so our community manager, a huge part of her role is connecting different people that she feels like would firstly get along, but then also have some kind of professional synergy as well. So connecting them, introducing them, saying that, I thought of you, I thought you'd, really get along with XYZ. So making those connections as well.
And feel like they're part of a family.
Exactly.
I guess is what you're trying to create.
That someone's looking out for you.
How did you get them in the door in the first place? So what has been maybe some of your best marketing strategies? Because that's always the hardest thing. We have the great idea and then we go to launch and then we're like, right, we just need the people to come in. So what's worked well for you?
So for us, a few strategies. Number one, we have a class of founding members. So there are basically 20 individuals that we have selected that firstly would use the space. So they would be like our ideal customer for the space. And secondly, individuals that really would help to promote the brand, you know. And so a big part of them being founding members is that they had to nominate 5 others, you know. So right off the bat, you have a group of 100 people, you know.
Excellent.
So those network effects initially were really important. And then second is we had a launch event, which you were part of as well. And I think that was really important because I think our business model, the things that attracts people is that the second they walk in, just seeing the space, a lot of people have said it's so much like bigger than the pictures, or, you know, the pictures don't do justice, or we can feel the energy when we come in, you know. So just getting people into the door is half the battle, you know. So all these events are really helpful, you know. And finally, word of mouth. So we always ask people whenever they come in for a tour, like, how did you hear about us? And they say one of two things. One is, oh, we saw on social media, or 2 is so and so told me about it and they loved it and they recommended it, you know. So one thing is a recommendation, and the second, which is even more powerful, is a very good recommendation or reference, you know,
or both recommendation and that via social media as well.
And you have to see something, you have to see a brand so many times in order to actually act on it, you know. 7 times,
I think
right?
something like 7 times,
to actually like get your foot on the door, or, you know, go on the website even. So I think all these different channels, but the most has been social media and word of mouth for sure.
That's amazing. And it is a fabulous space. But it's quite interesting you said there about a launch, and I was always very clear when I started my very first business, I wanted to have a launch party. I didn't know people then, and it was, you know, 18 years ago or so, but for me it was so good in so many ways. One, mentally, that I was able to go, you know what, today's the day that I launch my business, rather than just kind of, you know, not having the mental thought of it, but it just gives such a focus and a direction to a date, and to get other people there to start talking about it. And it's something as a mentor that I say a lot, if you can focus on, even if it's just your friends, and you'll start to generate a little bit of a buzz, you're there mentally, it's such a good thing to do. So it worked for you as well.
And I think the launch event, in a sense, it, like you said, it's like the official start of the business.
Totally,
so it's a motivator to get a lot of things done before this date.
100%, 100%. Or else what I find, especially with maybe some of my clients that don't have a launch per se, is then they go, well, I'll put it off to next month, and I'll put it off till next month, and they'll just and they'll wait and see. One of the things that I didn't want to talk about, and we've chatted about it in conversation before, about WeWork and the challenges that they faced, and you know, you've seen that, and I remember writing down something in my research that in a paper that cited their business model had been very expensive and they had very little path to profitability. And this was something even since 2015 people talked about that. So how have you tried to make the bureau different so that you don't follow in the same sort of footsteps in that space?
So one of the golden rules that one of my friends who's an investor told me, and my sister early on, is to follow the rule that your office revenue, your fixed revenue should cover 80 to 100% of your fixed costs. So because membership models in general are very fickle, you know, it's hard to attract people to join a membership model, and even harder to retain, you know. And so just we followed that completely. So our office revenue covers 100% of our fixed costs. So
amazing.
In that sense, you have your bases covered. And then also another thing that we were keen on is, you know, we wanted to have different services in the space, like I said, the cafe and the fitness studio, but we're not experts in running a cafe or a fitness studio, you know. So we wanted to bring in external, you know, brands and experts who are, you know, established in this field. So we have Jones the grocer for the cafe, and now for the workout studio. Both of them have been in the UAE for, you know, over 10 years.
And quality brands, and well known as well.
Yeah, exactly. So brands that kind of have their own social capital, and brands that we trust as well, you know? So bringing them in to run those aspects of the business, you know? So that's been really helpful, because otherwise you're doing too many things and, you know, not able to do justice to either, you know? So for us, a few of these things were really important, you know?
And have you studied much on what they've done? I mean, have you looked at other business models and gone, other co-working space models and gone, we want to bring this in and we want to do that? Is there any other things that you're like, I'd like to do that in the future?
Yeah, so one of the things that was, you know, always on our mind since the beginning, and that we haven't necessarily had the bandwidth to do so far in the 2 months of the launch, but it's to have two things actually. One is to have a mentorship program, and the second is to have an in-house accelerator for startups, you know.
Nice.
So the mentorship program, it's, you know, both traditional mentorship and reverse mentorship, and we need to put together a proper program or tie up with a partner that, you know, is successful in doing this, because otherwise I feel like if you rush into it, you won't add value to anyone, you know? So that's definitely something that's in the books. And then the second, which is a bit more medium term, is the accelerator, you know, that, you know, supporting startups from, you know, ground up, everything from, you know, the ideation, the branding, to creating the, you know, MVP, to all the way to actually reaching the point where you, if they do want to gain and, you know, vouch for external funding, you know, how to go through that process as well, you know, and making those industry connects as well. So that's definitely in the books, but maybe next year. And
is another one in Dubai in the books, or would you consider elsewhere in the region?
Yeah, so definitely. So what we said is that we never only wanted to have a single bureau, you know. So the first one, we wanted to perfect the model and really have you know, reach a stage where we're comfortable, and then we're definitely going to look at you know, more in the UAE, Saudi, the rest of the Gulf, India, and also Singapore, and, you know, that side of the world as well.
Exciting space. So tell me, unfortunately your sister couldn't be here today. She's a little bit poorly. What's it like working with your sister? What are some of the great things? Is there challenges along the way? I'm sure there is with any partnership, but yeah, what's it like?
Yeah, so it's amazing in the sense that I think it works for us because we're very different. So right before we even decided to work together, our mother sat us down and said, you know, you have to make sure that it's family before anything, because we've all seen it go wrong with family businesses, like, you know, very easily. So she made sure that that was drilled into us. And then what we did is we sat across from each other and we wrote down the skills that we have and the things that we want to work on individually on the business. And we switched sheets and we realized there was zero overlap.
That's a great idea to do. Like, here, you do that and that and swap them.
It's such a simple thing, but we realized there was no overlap, which was amazing. So I think number one, if you have a strong foundation, that's really important. And then second is having complementary skill sets and complementary areas of the business that we work on. And what we do is we keep reviewing the aspects that are our domain, because as the business changes, the requirements change as well.
Absolutely.
So we review that on a monthly basis. So that's, you know, the amazing part. I think initially what was more a challenge for me is that to kind of switch from me as the older sister to switch from my familial roles with her as being the bigger sister and her being the little sister to being equals and partners, you know.
What's the age difference between you?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a lot, but it's...
I mean, I'm 2.5 years with my sister, but I know what you mean. You still feel a little bit more that protective, I guess.
Like, because we had never worked together and she had only worked in corporate in Los Angeles and New York, I had never even seen that side of her, you know. So for me, I had to definitely let go a little bit, so just learn to like trust her, because otherwise I was like asking her like a million times, did you check XYZ, you know. So just kind of letting go in that sense. And I think from her side, what she's expressed to me is that initially she kept asking for validation when she realized actually she was totally confident in herself.
And she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, exactly. It was just us slipping back into the familial roles, you know. But then as soon as we kind of acknowledged that and learned to move forward, it became very smooth, you know, touch wood.
Good. I love that your mum sat you down though and said, if you're going to go into business together. And they were there at your family, your parents were there at the launch.
Yeah, my parents, my grandparents, my in-laws, everyone.
It was lovely to see. It was so nice to see. I have another question that I do ask everyone in the Killing Bird podcast is, what's one myth that you've discovered? And I know you're fairly new in the sort of the business space at the moment of that, but is there a myth that you're like, this is totally not what it looks like on the outside? And I always find it quite interesting because social media portrays one thing, and you know, in the careers that I've had over the years, there's certainly been a few myths. Anything that you want to share?
I think in what we've realized is that in like service-based industries, I think it's important to draw the line and not say yes to everything, to also, it's okay to say no, you know, and draw that line, because you can't be everything to everyone. Yeah. I think that's what we're realizing, is that we can't, you know, necessarily cater to everyone, and we have only so much bandwidth. So that's something initially someone had told us, that, you know, in service-based industries, it's important to, like, you know, appease everyone. And I
say
think,
yes all the time, and especially when you've just started. I think that's what I hear a lot.
Yeah.
As people say that.
Yeah, to say yes all the time. And then we've also, I mean, with any new business, I think you get a lot of inbound in terms of like asking for like a lot of free stuff. So I think just like drawing the line and of where we can and where we can't, you know.
that must be quite hard, because if you're, you know, you want to help you want to help as many people as you possibly can, but kind of drawing the line. So how do you manage to draw the line then? How do you manage to say no?
So, you know, it was really difficult in the beginning, because like you said, we want to help as many people as possible, or support, especially like female entrepreneurs, businesses. And I think what we realized that actually my parents reminded us of is that, you know, if you are giving like free space to so-and-so, is, you know, our landlord's 𝗲𝗏. Is 𝗲𝗏 like reducing your rent? Are they giving you a discount? And just remembering that we're still paying our rent and, you know, salaries and all of those costs. That sometimes, you know, it's just not possible to give as much as we would like.
Yeah, it's such an interesting space, because I do get asked, you know, can you come and speak for free here, or can you come and do this? And it's like, no, you know, you're earning a salary, you know, and I know, well, it's promote your business, but there's other ways that you can do that. And I'm afraid, you know, going to 𝗕𝗏 to pay my electricity bill, they're not going to accept a voucher, thanks very much, or a dress or something. I need to pay them, and it's frustrating sometimes, but you do have to say no, and then it becomes quite empowering actually, saying no to the things that you, what do they say? It should be if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. That's what it should be. A hell yes or a no completely. So yeah, how can people find out more? What's the web address? Are you on LinkedIn? Like, what's your connections? Can you share that with everyone?
Yeah, sure. So everywhere we're the Bureau Business Center. So on LinkedIn, on that's the Bureau BC is our website. And then our Instagram is the Bureau AE.
Very good. And then on LinkedIn, are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's just the Bureau Business Center.
And
on
you
LinkedIn.
Personally? I'm all about personal brands.
Yeah, so it's Nikita Patel.
Awesome. And your sister?
Rhea Patel.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and
sharing
Kelly. Your story to where you are now. I wish you every success. It's a beautiful space, and I just love that I can bring my clients together and do it in just a vibe that feels, you know, such good energy. So thank you so much.
Good vibes.
Good vibes always.
Thanks, Kelly.